All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. Good to have the sheriff of Terrebonne Parish, Tim Saunier, on the news desk. I've been seeing the sheriff out in the field quite a bit. And good to have you in a little air conditioning on the news desk.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, things are going okay for you?
Yes, sir. We still tied up. I mean, we still got a lot of issues, some of our own infrastructure stuff going on with our office. But we're working through it. We're working through it and being very patient, just like our community is. I know they're dealing with their insurance companies and, trying to rebuild. And we just try to do everything we can to make it easy and encouraging people to rebuild. And that's what we do here.
Right. And I know, just for a lighter moment, before we get into some of the things that you're doing as sheriff, you had a float in the Christmas parade, and I know you have your own little city out there by the motor pool, and you've sort of adopted some children that are living in the trailers, but rumors have it that you got these kids on the float and you gave them a lot of sugar, and they weren't throwing them all; they were eating a lot.
They probably were eating a little bit. I'm not gonna deny that, but what people don't know, back in 1994, I lost my home, completely burned to the ground. We lost everything, and I learned one thing. The most important thing was my family, but I saw what it did to my son. And I said, under these catastrophic, you don't realize what it does to a child. And I just tried to plug in some good memories. And so that's we put those children on the float and let them have a good time during Christmas. And we did give them a little bit extra sugar out there, but
that was nice of you.
Have a good time. But
those pixie sticks we used to get as kids with the regular straw. Now they're very big.
They had some big pixie sticks, and I thought that was interesting. I get a case of those, and the children were enjoying those quite a bit. But I thought it was funny. I don't think the parents thought it was funny, but I said, man, they're children. This is a memory they're gonna remember forever.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you did that. Let's talk about, when you come on, we don't have an agenda. We don't have talking points. We just talk from the heart. Tell us what's going on with the Sheriff's Department. Maybe bring us up to speed on some Hurricane Ida recovery at this point. How's it changed in the last few weeks?
Well, we had our motor pool. We got some substantial damage there. We're still working. We're getting our quotes to get that facility up and running. And to get it fully up and running, but it's gonna be down for a little bit. So we got a couple contingencies we're planning to deal with it while we get that rebuilt, so we can get it repaired, so we can move forward with our parish. But I mean, the important part, every contingency we ensure we're not missing a beat with the services which we provide our community, and of course a lot of my logistics, and we got to still provide the logistical support for our officers that do the job every day. So it's real important that we don't miss a beat, and every plan, every action we take, it's about we don't miss a beat and we still continue doing our job. And sometimes it gives us some challenges, but under these challenging times, I mean, like I said, we've had a record storm that hit our parish and devastated us, and everybody's going through some level of stress, but it's important that we continue to provide the services and without missing a beat and providing those services. So we're really trying to stay on top of that.
I mean, you talked about it a while back. We talked about how we're all helping moms get their homes together and different things. Hadn't this really allowed us to hit the reset button on life and to say, before the storm hit, this was important to me, this was important, this was important. After the storm, this is what's important. We hit the reset button. I
think it puts people down back to the ground and looking at what's really important. I mean, I always use the word staying grounded and staying humbled. And if an event like this doesn't humble people and realize, it's like, you focus on what's really important.
Right.
And, to me, our community, making sure our community is taken care of, that's important. But I think at the levels of the community, they realize their neighbors, is like during the storm, their neighbors were helping. Neighbors were helping one another. And they realize those simple things and those simple acts of kindness become some of the most important things, especially through a devastation we experienced.
I think back, some people say, well, man, it's been a blur. And it has been a blur. It's been a blur to me. It's probably been a blur to you. It's been a blur to Gordy. It's been a blur to everybody. Because I remember walking outside of my home before I came in the news desk, before the storm hit. Because I knew the magnitude of the storm coming in the Gulf, and I looked around and I went, it's not going to look the same after this. And after seeing the devastation, But seeing how far we've come in 3 months is so encouraging. Now, we got a long way to go, but a little step at a time.
And you know, there's a lot of people outside the parish that come in and they say, well, you know, y'all looking like y'all pretty good, and some like in other parishes that's been devastated from previous storms. He said, man, it looks like y'all doing really well. And I'm like, well, you know, it's a lot of work, and but like I'll always say, Terrebonne Parish, we got some of the most resilient people. If they got a hammer and they got nails and they got resources, they're not waiting, they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I can 100% wholeheartedly say. Our parish has to be some of the most resilient. They don't wait. And to me, that's why I think it was important getting our people back as quick as we can get our people back, because they want to rebuild, and I can't blame them.
They're going to start the chainsaws. They're going to get out there and move the
That is
tree.
exactly right. The best people to rebuild our parish is not the government. The best people are the people. And that's what we're about. And you know what? I can't be more proud of our community, how they pull together during this storm, despite what all of the other stuff that's going on about, you know, from the support from FEMA and all of these other things. But people helping one another and getting themselves back on their feet, and people saying, you know what, we're going to rebuild, we're not waiting. It'd be nice to get some help, but they're not waiting. They're getting out there and getting it done.
Let's just jump into general crime. Seems like, I don't know if I want to use the word gangs, but I don't know how else to describe it. Groups from Thibodeau or Terrebonne don't like each other. So one day they're in your jurisdiction, the next day they're in Sheriff Weber's jurisdiction. So a lot to talk about.
Well, we monitor a lot of the potential activity or potential for something to come into Terrebonne. I mean, we working with across the parish lines and sharing information. But I think it's important we monitor if something comes on our radar, and we plan for contingencies, and we deal with those issues as they come along, because sometimes there's some unpredictable things that can happen, and we try to plan contingencies for anything, especially if we get some intel on certain issues that may be coming to parish or they could be potential, and we prepare ourselves and we deal with those as they come across sometimes as we get intel.
Never fails to make my head spin that you see a lot of this stuff on Facebook, and they're so vocal with each other. You could almost use that for a little intel, but the fact of the matter is, those groups like to talk too. They like to brag about what they're doing. So
they do, and we utilize social media and other means of intel where we can plan accordingly in contingencies. I mean, we try to stay ahead of it, and we certainly want to. I don't want to be reactive to any shooting when we can be more proactive in preventing. And we try to take that approach as much time. Sometimes there's some unpredictable things, but we try to be as proactive as we can with those issues.
You mentioned proactive in prevention. I know that's always been your way. You've done training classes before with people, how to prevent shooters from coming in your school, how to prevent this or how to prevent that. But I know part of you is sad when you see these young kids that are ruining their lives by just picking up a gun instead of, if worse comes to worse, the old-fashioned way, going to the park and a little do-si-do.
Right.
They think differently, don't they?
Well, look, I was speaking to a young lady this morning. I said, what really breaks my heart, some of this younger generation. I said, you know, they let their anger, their emotion, and they make one decision, and it changes their life. And I mean, and when you talk about victims, yep, they make a decision, and they produce a victim, whether it's serious injury or death. But then, you know, getting through this generation before they let their emotions drag them, you think about your family. You realize you're going to leave some victims behind if you're in jail or in prison, because now your family has to live with that. And think a little bit about on both sides, not just because you're angry at this person and you want to lash out at this person because you have a beef with him or some affiliation, when now you got sisters, you got loved ones that love you back here, and all of a sudden you need to think about that a little bit. And trying to reach that generation, it's a challenge. But
I've always thought, you know, a lot of people we know have done crimes, and you've seen it in law enforcement, I've seen it from a news desk perspective, is that you see that they're remorseful after they do it, because they were basing their whole thing on emotion. Now, some people are just not remorseful, but that's few and far between. I would imagine that kids, once they realize what they've done. They go, uh-oh, this is serious stuff now. Stuff I can't just call Uncle Joe and get out of.
Can't
or whatever.
undo.
So I guess the part you're trying to emphasize is let's reach them before they pick that gun up, and let's educate them. And you've always been big on
And
education.
look, I've had parents bring their children into my office, and I'll sit with them, and I'm like, they might not be around the right crowd, and don't seem to be doing the right things. And I talk about these children. I said, well, first of all, and I'll use this, I said, your mother brought you in here. Now you think she cares about you or loves you? Well, yeah, so if she loves you enough to bring you in here, then probably what she's telling you, she's right. And like I always use my dad, and we refer to our parents, but my dad always told me something. He said, son, the older I get, the smarter I'm going to get. The older you get, the smarter I'm going to get.
Right.
And what he meant is wisdom. I said, look, parents learn lessons themselves, and they share it with the children. But it's really, the parents that since they care about their children, and they don't want them to get in these situations, or letting their tempers get the best of them because they're hanging with the wrong crowd and lashing out, and all of a sudden, I mean, it creates victims all the way around, and trying to stay ahead of that. I mean, look, I'd rather, before a child does something stupid, and I always said it, I said, before you do something that you're going to regret, my door is open. Come talk to me, or talk to your parents, or talk to someone. But before you think you might do it, if there's a slight hesitation that you think it's probably not right, it probably isn't. And don't, because of your anger or your emotion.
And it's that old count to 10 adage.
That's right.
Which, let's face it, me and you were both young at one point, and when you're trying to prove yourself and you got testosterone flying all over the place, it's hard to count to 10. But if you could get them to that point where they just say, no, the gun's not the answer.
That's right.
You've won that game, because then we don't lose a life.
That's it. Because, I mean, that's ends up what happening. I mean, the younger generation, I mean, there's some challenges. And look, and I tell most parents, I said, there's no book on raising your child. All you can do is love them. Make sure they know you love them unconditionally. And hopefully that'll, before they do something, they'll think about the family on what if I do something, how's that going to affect my family? And maybe that might be just enough to make them take that extra 30 minutes before they act and say, this is not a good idea. And I mean, hopefully just trying to do these levels of prevention.
Want to take this time, we've been getting a lot of calls from the family of Austin Fungi. He's been missing. There you see the missing person flyer that's going around, and I want to use this opportunity to ask the sheriff, what can people do to help here?
Well, if they get any leads or potential leads, by all means, they can call 876-2500. I have to speak to our detective bureau, who's investigating. And any leads, anything, any information, if they even hear about, we can check on things, or because there's always going to be rumors. We saw somebody here, we saw somebody there, and we dealt with that kind of stuff in the past. But anything we check out. And I mean, if anybody has any kind of information where they think it's important or not important, don't leave it. I mean, we can actually go ahead and check it out. But dial 876-2500 and give us any information they can to help find this young man.
And Austin Fungi was last seen on November 19, 2021 at Target Temp on St. Charles Street in Houma. At that time, he was wearing black camouflage pants, a red hoodie, and white shoes. Austin has several tattoos, including a smiley face and trombone shorty on his left leg, Roman numerals on his right arm, a house on his stomach, and the letter H with a star and the Virgin Mary with roses on the left arm. Austin was carrying a white shoulder polo bag with a polar bear on it and his name on the bag. If you have any information, like the sheriff said, on the whereabouts of Austin Fungi, please contact the Terrebonne Parish Sheriff's Office at 985-876-2500. So, Sheriff, hopefully somebody will give you a call.
And I mean, leads, our guys are constant. If there's any leads, they're checking every lead that they can. But
No
I mean,
doubt.
that's what when people give any information or call in information, we check it out, and sometimes it leads to success, and we hope
Yeah,
we
because I
find
can
this
only
young man.
imagine what the family goes through.
My prayers go out to the family. I know that's got to be a tough thing, and I know it's tough. It's holiday time, and so my prayers are to them, and we'll continue to pray and make sure our guys are working hard.
No doubt. Let's do this. Let's switch gears, talk about Toys for Tots. I remember before you were sheriff, you were always working on Toys for Tots. That was a big thing, of course, being a Marine. It's synonymous with each other, and still involved with all that?
Actively involved with Toys for Tots. Look, I got a good assistant, Miss Tracy Gotro. I'll put it out there and give her a plug. Look, she's doing a great job helping me and you know, doing the job that I have to do. And she's been a great assistant and coordinating a lot of events and giving me my times where I need to be and what time I need to be there. But you know, we're very hopeful, and things are looking pretty good considering the devastation. People always pull together in Terrebonne Parish, and there's a lot of calls. There's been a lot of support. Like, look, we want to help, and we know Terrebonne Parish was devastated. We want to help make sure we reach every child, and that's really the goal of the program. Like Mr. Linwood, who's been on the show many times, and I've sat next to him here. He said, you know, on Christmas morning, you put a smile on a child's face, and that's what it's about. And you know, we work hard, and our volunteers and the Marine Corps League, and all our volunteers that help with the Toys for Tots. I couldn't be more blessed to have such great volunteers that help make this successful, and more importantly, the community.
That's right. As we start winding down our segments, any wish list that you might have with the new year coming aboard? I know one thing you'd put on is, I don't want to go sit up there with Martin and cover 8 tropical storms in 1 year. I don't want to have a Hurricane Ida. I don't want to have COVID. Anything else we could put on that list?
Well, let's just have a nice year, and and if I guess my New Year's resolution, let's have no storms. Let's not have to deal with COVID, but more importantly, the community focus on helping one another, and concentrate on the generosity of the people, of your neighbors that's helped you, and you know, and keep something positive and have something positive, because we can definitely use something positive.
You know, and I was telling your nephew the other day, said I knew Tim before he was sheriff, but you don't really get to know a person until you work with them all the time, like we do with the station and the sheriff's unit. But your heart is your biggest asset, and just watching you maneuver through different things, that's a good quality to have, so keep that up. That's a strong point of you, Sheriff.
I stay humble and grounded.
Yeah.
The people put me here, and I thank God that the people have confidence in me to do the right thing, and I don't want to let our people down.
Yeah, and no doubt. And I think people will prop you up too. You know, I find that throughout the years that most people that just come across as being real, sometimes they need help too, and the public will get behind them and do whatever it takes to make it happen. So as you continue to drive along the parish in the final minute, I'm sure you're seeing there's still some despair out there. People are still struggling. They're still frustrated over a FEMA trailer. But for the most part, I find at least they're getting some of that spirit back.
The people are, you know, every day gets a little better. And if everybody works a little bit and make it a little bit better each day, eventually things will get better. And I think our parish as a whole, if you look from that storm to now, it has gotten better. Things have cleaned up, and things are getting cleaned up, and people are rebuilding. But more importantly is giving people hope out there, is work hard, help your neighbor, and every day try to make it a little bit better. You know, I'll throw a prop to my wife. My wife says, you know how you eat elephant is one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And I said, I tell people, just take one bite at a time, and it'll get better each day. That's how you move 1,000 pounds, a couple pounds at a time. Don't think like you're overwhelmed.
Sheriff, I appreciate the extended time today. I know you got a lot of work to do, but thank you, and God bless you, and we'll see you again next time.
Thank you, Mark. God bless you.
All right. We'll be right back. Don't go away.